So much, and it means a lot to be amongst all of you. I've driven a long, long way. Please don't switch off the lights, because every time there's a tendency thinking there's some PowerPoint coming along, everyone switches off the lights. So I've used makeup today, so I would like for you to look at me and admire me. As human beings, the only reason why we stand in front of an audience, one is to be admired, second is to be appreciated. I think these two are the biggest things leaders forget. It's not about who you are, what greatness you've achieved, and everything that you heard right now is all glories of the past. I'm here to make a few friends, and if I can make a few friends, I'll be more than happy. I'll request both of you to be also seated. It's going to take a while. I've come so far, I'm not going to leave you guys just like that. All right? Now, the most important part is that I'm a keen behavior of human behavior, observer of human behavior, and I make a lot of mistakes. I'm very strong as a person. I come across very blunt. And yes, if you want to judge me, feel free, but that's not who I am. And for those of you who have perceptions about me, you've already formed a few. Let me tell you, that's really not who I am. So at the end of the day, people keep guessing, they try to fit you, they try to slot you, they try to put you in a framework. And I'll give you a perfect example of miscommunication. There was this chap who was traveling on the metro, and every time there's a girl who smiled at him, she always looked at him and said, "Every time I see you, I feel like inviting you to my place." The girl was very happy. She looked at him and said, "Are you single? Is that why?" So he said, "No, I'm a dentist." So if you really think of what communication is, I mean, that's how communication is. We think one thing and it's completely the opposite. Yesterday when I was taking class for 17-year-olds who are students of BBA, one of the kids looked up to me and he looked very sad. So he looked at me like this, he was giving me a signal. And then I asked him, "Any problem?" He said, "Yes, one." And I asked him, "What?" He said, "I want to fasten the fan." Right? He meant speed up. He wanted to increase the speed of the fan in the classroom. But what did he say? "I want to fasten the fan." Immediately a kid who's a very smart one from the other side stood up and said, "Where do you want to fasten it?" That's even worse, because you take great thrill in putting down other people when you speak. And that's a human tendency. I do have it. I'm a stand-up comic, so I do a lot of sessions for people who are, unlike you guys, much older, and they're a lot like me. But at the end of the day, I just want to tell you, I've been a good leader, or I'm told so. I have, I think 15,000 plus followers everywhere on social media. I have a couple of lakhs in real life, and Praveen himself told me that he's a fan of mine. But it took him maybe 3 weeks to post an Instagram picture. And he told me, "I'll do it today." Right? So there's a lot of things where people don't mean what they say and say what they don't mean. It's very easy. He promised me a full house and he said 200 people, he fooled me. Right? So he just wanted me to come. Now I'm a cerebral item girl. I don't perform before small audiences because we do have what we call brand value. Unfortunately or fortunately, you guys work for a living, I speak for a living. And it means that when I go out and speak, generally people pull out money and give it to me. GE hasn't done that, so I believe that I'm not going to give you gyan. Right? I'm joking, don't take me seriously for those of you who are saying, "Gee, bad lady, what is she talking?" Right? Let me tell you, I'm from a very decent, erstwhile, royal family from Balgat. And yes, I'm married, I have only one husband, and thereby leadership skills are very natural to me. I've kept them for the last 40 years. So leadership is not about front positions and walking off the moment you're done. Right? That's bad manners in my definition. I think great leaders are good listeners. Great leaders always have time. Great leaders don't say that, "Oh, I'm busy, I have this call, I have that call." Let me warn all of you guys that you've mismanaged your time if you say that. And it's all rubbish. I've met people from Fortune 500 companies. I met the who's of who. I even trained the highest office in this country. And every time he says, "Mitron," you know who's trained him in that body language, right? So even he has time for you. And then you have lots of people who come up to me and say, "Oh, excuse me, I'm in a call. Oh, excuse me, I just got to leave. Oh, excuse me, I just finished my talk. I just came here because my people wanted me to inspire them." What do you think guys like us are farting around, is it? I mean, it only seems like the leaders have no time, right? Look at the front row, empty. Because your job's done. And I'm so sorry to tell you that in my definition, a good leader is one who has and makes the time for people. A great leader is one who not only makes time, but they make space as well for other people. Okay? And that's a leader. Leadership is not all about talking positions. Those who are in position, we know what happens to a guy in position. Poor Yediyurappa, you can ask him to. Right? He just almost went there and pulled him off. I'm apolitical as a person. I don't have any lenience towards extreme right, left and center. I just believe that goodness is there in everybody. If you're able to bring it out of anybody, even if be it a man who we will not prefer to talk about in forums like this, I think all human beings are capable of leadership. And that's the reason I tell people that even a watchman can be a leader. Even a bus driver can be a leader. Even a maid servant can be a leader. And I firmly disagree with those who say that you need to be a CEO or an MD or somebody who's a VP or a P or whatever it is. You end up becoming such a P that some of you wish that you were dead. Because it pays for pain, in the doctor's dictionary. We don't call it like president or whatever that is. So let me be very honest. Point number one, good leaders are great human beings. They may or may not be good in their subject. They all have degrees, we all do. But does not necessarily mean that you're great in what you talk about or what you're supposed to be good at. So what's this called? Competence. Are you capable or are you competent? I believe all are capable. But if you want to reach competence, you got to take that extra step. And what is that extra step? The extra step is very simple. Prepare, evaluate, and follow through. If you want to go to the next step, you really got to prepare. 2 steps or 5 steps? 2 steps or 5 steps? 2 steps or 5 steps? So what is this called? Prepping. Once you prep, the mind is ready, you can evaluate, is that the right prep or not? Follow through. And this is a very simple procedure that we teach leadership across the globe. I don't see human beings as being so different. Culturally, maybe here and there, we are slightly different. We smile a little less, we smile a little more. We bend a little less, we don't bend at all. I mean, these are the kind of differences that you find in different cultures. But in my own definition, I think it's imperative that you are a great human being and you must keep smiling. How unpleasant can a face get? I can see in leadership. I tried smiling at all the leaders in the front row. Not one of them returned my smile. And that was a test to see how good they were as leaders. I'm sorry to say. Turnovers do not decide your leadership. The kind of people who cry for you when you leave, they might cry because they're so glad you're leaving. And sometimes you cry because you wish you could tell them which finger you want to show them, but you cannot sometimes. Right? Because you never know where you're going to bump into them all over again. Because there's something like musical chairs. For me, truth means leadership. If I beg to differ with somebody, I still respect them. Because respect is mandatory, connect is mandatory. Most of the leaders lack these two. They just come in there and command instead of connecting. They convey instead of connecting. For me, it's all about connecting. I will never forget people in my life. Even if they wish that I forget them, I won't. So you keep in mind the good ones and the bad ones. The bad ones require my attention. It's a general tendency for even class teachers, who many people look up to as leaders, to focus on the front benches. If you get 98, they're like, oh, I would have ensured you got a 99 or 100. I always concentrate on the last. I always concentrate on those people who really need some attention to come forward into that rank. Because the others will definitely manage themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, in leadership, there's only one thing. If you want to do more, learn to be more. How can you be more without being mindful? How can I not look at a gentleman and return a smile that he's giving me? And instead come here and make big promises, big assurances and all the success stories as if it was your own. You and me are all slaves. And we work for somebody else. Why? Because when you don't have something strong enough to work for, you end up working for those perspectives and those kind of aims and objectives which somebody has, some organization has. So is there anything wrong with it? Not at all. But even there you can change people. And to me, leadership is about changing people. It's about changing mindsets. It's definitely not about bank balances. It's definitely not about saying that I'm standing in the front and I've got 1,500 followers. To me, ladies and gentlemen, leadership has been about equipping people. And I've done that all my life. I've got more than 8 lakh people in my Doctors Against Corruption. I've got more than 18 lakh people across the globe who follow me with my mind practices. So it's not a small number. Sometimes even ministers have only 500 people in Karnataka. I go and check them out. And it's just that we're not really spoken about. Why? Because guys like Praveen say, I'll text you today, and he texts me after 10 days. He says, I'm from Telangana, you're from Telangana, ma'am. I'm so excited, I'll be waiting for you near the main gate, and you don't see him. What are you doing? Disappointing people. What are you doing? Setting expectation levels. What are you doing? Saying things you don't mean. First of all, you didn't think. Next, you didn't feel. But you end up saying and saying and saying things you don't mean. And what does the other mind do? Expect. What does the other mind do? Connect. What does the other mind do? It waits for you to keep your word. Leaders are those who keep their word. Even if it means that I'm going to die, I'm going to keep my word and then die. It's called a sense of commitment. A man went to a library and once asked the librarian, do you have a book on suicide? The librarian gave it to him and said, sorry, but who will give it back to me once you're done? That is a sense of commitment. And I believe that leaders lack commitment. They only have big verbal assurances. The easiest thing to do in today's world is talk, and Toastmasters encourages that. But it's in a formatted manner. I have a few friends in the audience. My heartfelt gratitude that you guys came by. It's always lovely to see you. I keep bumping into some of them here and there. That's why I have to be careful not to repeat my jokes. Because the rate at which you talk sometimes is more than the rate at which you breathe. Leadership is very simple. Let's not make it complicated. What does it mean? It just means that you need to be grounded, centered, and mindful. What is grounded? When your emotions are under control. If you're angry, it takes a lot of skill for you to be under control. When you're overtly happy and excited because you got a raise, it takes a great deal of control for you to stay what? Grounded. And what is grounded? Staying steady no matter what. Staying what? Staying not disconnected but detached. What is detached? Detached leaders are brilliant leaders. Detached leaders are those who will not allow anyone to control me. Detached leaders are those who believe I care about everybody, but no one or nothing can control me. And how many years does this take? A good 30 years to be an overnight success. And that's why we have a very few quantum of leaders who are mindful leaders. Positionally, yes. Educationally, yes. In terms of their skills, yes. But in terms of being a natural, awesome leader who can just raise a finger and get 10 lakh people to do exactly as probably they all want to, towards a common principle, it's a minority out there. Correct me if I'm wrong. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes. Are you guys all right?
Yes.
Okay. If you're not, show me the finger. I never said anything, your mind is imagining it. Okay? And I'm just trying to tell you that it's important that you keep checking with your people. It's very important that you keep checking with your people, are you all right? Because sometimes when you go to a leader and just say something to them, they give you 1 hour of advice. What did you want? 10 minutes of good listening. Without any advice. Good leaders are what we call active listeners. What do? Lend you their ears. They don't give you advice. What happens when you speak like that to someone in position? You feel heard. You feel wanted. You feel connected. You feel the compassion which probably comes through pure active listening. And this is zero in today's leaders. Let me just tell you, through all the research that we've done, 98.6 almost % of leaders, they do not indulge in active listening. If you just come and say, I have a problem. I had a problem too 10 years ago. I solved 10 problems, 20 problems, 30 problems. Problems nowadays can be solved. Don't worry, if not me, there are 10 others who solve problems. All you wanted was patient listening for 5 minutes. But they give you solutions. Good leaders are only active listeners, they don't give you advice. So how can you become all of this? The entire crux of what I'm trying to tell you is stay grounded, stay centered, as we call it. These are the only two things I'll leave in 30 minutes with you. Prepare, evaluate, and follow through. What? What do you want to do and where do you want to go? It's very simple. What do you want to do to go where you want to go? Where do you want to go is a very big question. You can start doing that. How will you do that? When you please go home today, I have 3 things I'll share with you which has helped me a great deal in my last 50 years of life existence and work that I do. What is that? Do not look for resources outside of you. All of you are leaders in the making. All of you are 100% as capable as a Tata or a Birla or anybody that you so admire. Now why am I saying this? When you go home, you'll realize that we all have the same brain. It's just that our opportunities are different. Our paths are different. Maybe the steps we choose are different. So what will you go? The resources that most of us rely on is external. But gentlemen and ladies, when you go home, please write down answers to 3 questions. I am, I have, and I can. This will give you 100% of what you can do with your own self in the next 6 months. I am. And if I ask you that, can you please shout out? If I ask you, I am, what will you say?
Capable.
I hope your mic don't... does your mic howl when I come near the speaker? Okay, it doesn't. Yes, I am. I am capable? Is that what you said? Yes, what about you? If I just asked you, I am. Superstar. All right. Give me an adjective which closely describes you as a person. Okay? Some describes you externally, some describes you internally. When you say capable, the next question will be at what? So it's extremely important that you're very specific because the brain doesn't understand questions otherwise. Ranjit, what about you? I am. Confident? Yes, brilliant. What about you? I am.
A good listener.
Good listener? Brilliant. What about you?
A sincere person.
Sincere? Yes. What about you?
A good friend.
I'm a good friend. Great. That means camaraderie is your forte. You get along with people. It's called rapport in the language of the brain. Right? I get along is rapport. Right? What about you? Are you married? Why are you hesitating so much? Okay, great. So please say so. There's no fear in Toastmasters.
Sure. I'm good at getting along with people.
Getting along with people. Anybody else who wants to just they're really good at? If I ask you the question, I am, you need to list me at least 3 adjectives about yourself. Please do not write what you're not. Because we have a tendency to keep writing what we are not. You know, I'm angry. Okay, I'm that. I'm impulsive. Now these are not things I want you to even think about. Where you focus, energy goes. And good leaders focus only on solutions, they don't focus on problems. Who's a good leader? A natural leader. Someone you look up to in spite of the chair or even without the chair. There are people in your lives in person as well as in the profession you might want to listen to. You might want to talk to. You might want to hang out with. They might even be younger than you. But believe me, age is just a number. I've met a lot of kids who are 20 and 25 who are very competent and I've learned from them. So the same thing applies to human beings. What is this? To remain grounded and centered, we need to ask ourselves 3 questions. I am. The next thing is I have. What will you say if I asked you, I have? You can do anything. You can write, I have a bike, I have a car. Even that comes handy sometimes. People don't realize the importance of such small things. But you know, when you do self-assessments for a whole day, because those are the workshops that I do, I would love for you to understand that when you say I have, and somebody writes, I have patience. Believe me, there's a difference when you say, I am patient, and I have patience. I have patience is a brilliant, big quality. I am patient is not really that big as I have patience. All right? Your patience is a different concept altogether. It's a huge word. All right? There's so many things. So I'm not getting into the nitty-gritties of it, but if I just asked you, what is it you have? Something you're really proud of, you're really happy about, please tell me.
I have the ability to mold myself at times.
Ability to mold myself at times. When you say ability to mold myself, your brain says, wow. And you say at times, it says, oh shit. And this is how the brain functions. If I'm going to walk up to a beautiful lady and just say, wow, ma'am, you're looking so beautiful. And then I say, but why you're wearing orange? Okay? The choice of words is extremely important for natural leadership. You speak simple, you speak specific. You speak concise, courteous, comprehensive, and you conclude quickly. Because people don't like long conversations. The brain doesn't appreciate it. So you don't come in here in storytelling mode. So good leaders are always telegraphic. The best leaders are telegraphic. They talk very less. They listen a lot. They look at you, and that's enough for you to understand he's appreciating me. They rely on something, ladies and gentlemen, which is way before your thought process. It's called what? Energy. Sometimes when you look at a person, even if you're not in love, they understand what you mean. And sometimes when you look at your spouse on weekends, you know how to convince her to stay outside your house or come back late. It need not be said. One eye sign is enough. I always tell people, if I look at him like this, he's like, oh wow, hello. But if I look at you like this and say, and he's like, oh wow, that's an invitation. That is the same eye. If you just change a little bit, you know, the whole meaning gets completely misconveyed. What are good leaders, or who are good leaders? Good leaders are natural leaders. Who's a natural leader? Someone who's grounded and centered. What is grounded and centered? When you have calm emotions, when you're able to bring on some value to those three questions, because it helps you to understand yourself better. I am, I have, and I can. If I asked you, I can, what would you answer? I can. What is the one thing that you can do, like I would do it the best? Don't think too much, okay? When you think, your left brain is taking you over. Analysis, logical reasoning. You used to just like, fatak, give the answer. Don't think too much. Don't become Shashi Tharoor's uncles and aunties in language. Be simple language. And believe me, at the end of the day, we Indians are very simple people. I mean, there are lots of kids. Have you seen how kids play? But I don't think anybody in a corporate plays like that. Because you shouldn't. We're all fine-tuned and conditioned to be like more formal, more corporate, and there's etiquette, and there's grooming. But when you feel the best, when you go home, remove all this chutty body, everything, wear your small tone shorts, your tone 90, and then you say, oh, I'm feeling it. That's the truth. And nobody dares talk the truth because they don't walk the talk. And that's exactly what I'm trying to say. There are a lot of people in forces and workforces who come to me and say, ma'am, I'm one person here. See me in the weekend. I'm totally different. So there are 2-3 of you inside you every day. And that's not the right way to be. It's not the right way to be. I'm a right brain functional dynamic scientist. I work with the right brain. And of course, if you're interested later offline, I'll tell you a lot of my qualifications. But please trust me when I tell you how to ground yourself. How many of you meditate in this room? Right. What practice are you using to meditate? What are you doing?
I try to concentrate on Om.
On your breath? Okay. It's a learned form, is it? Did you learn on YouTube or someone taught you what to do?
I am part of a spiritual organization.
Okay, you're part of a spiritual organization. Right. Is there anybody else who has a different process? Yes, please tell me.
I do Sudarshan Kriya in the morning.
All right. Great, great. So for those of you who don't meditate, great wishes and welcome to what we do in the outside world. If you don't start to meditate, leader or not, you will start to medicate. Even then you can come to me. Okay? And I'm one of those who's not much loved by doctors because I've kept a lot of people away from medicines. You need not ever visit a doctor if you meditate. It's one of the most potent forms of existence. It's one of the most potent forms of taking you to the next level of you. Okay, I do not recommend the Babaji and the Bhabiji styles, however. If you want a potent practice, please learn it from potent people who know what they are talking about. Otherwise, we'll end up becoming like Nityananda. You can find God, but you can't find a hidden camera. And that's the irony of the spiritual guys. I'm sorry to say, it's a 500 crore turnover business. Okay, some of my students tell me, ma'am, you wear orange, ma'am, you can buy an aircraft next year. But that's not what I'm here for. I'm very happy where I am. You can be very unhappy in an aircraft. Believe me, ask Vijay Mallya.